Okay, all right. So I want to talk a little more today about as we go into chapter 20, specifically about the cow infinite construct conjugation. We have now, as you know, the stems, the cow stems, the simple kind of action, active voice, and then we move into our conjugations where we've done four of them so far: the perfect, the imperfect, the okay, now I'm messing it up. The perfect, the imperfect, the imperative, and I'm missing one. What am I missing here? Well, this is the fourth one then. Okay, so all right, so we have. Let me just pick up from the beginning. So, as we go into the chapter 20, the Cal infinite construct, we want to take a look at why this really matters, what we're doing, and we've looked at the Cal, the simple kind of voice, active voice, the simple kind of action, and the conjugations kind of tell us more about the type of action, whether it's complete, whether it's ongoing, and so we've looked at the perfect conjugation, which would be more of a completed, and the ongoing more of, or the incomplete or the imperfect conjugation being more of the incomplete or ongoing or in process or iterative kind of action, and the imperative more of the command, direct command. And today we want to look at the cow infinite construct conjugation. And so when we talk about infinite construct, I think of this in this terms. We have the finite verb. A finite meaning it's limited. It's limited to the person, to the number, or the gender. Right. A third masculine singular verb is limited to third person, he, she, or it. Masculine, of course, or plural or singular. So that limits the verb's action. And those are finite verbs, and that's typically what we've been doing. And now we're moving into an infinite or a non-finite verb, and that's really what the infinite construct is. It does not express the person, the number, or gender. It just states the action, and that's it. It expresses an action. So it's a non-finite. It's an infinite construct. It expresses the action, but not who does it. It doesn't tell you when it happens, which actually most verbs in Hebrew don't. Itself tells you when. That's a part of the syntax. It only the most Hebrew verbs tell you the kind of action, whether it's ongoing or completed or that type of thing, and you have to interpret within the context whether it's a past, present, or future. The infinite construct often appears, most often, about 90% of the time. Think the infinite construct is like 5,600, over 5,600 times. 90% it appears with a preposition. That will make it a lot easier to recognize as well. As it appears, it expresses the action and it sort of names the action, like to walk, to love, to serve, to kill, to die, to hate. These kind of things are basically tells you that an action exists, and but it doesn't tell you about who did it or what. But there are other things it does give you. Hebrew infinite construct wants to, when the writer wants to describe what's required or why, what's the purpose of something, or maybe express what the action is about, or maybe the expectations from the one who's giving the command or the infinite or the request or the desire. It's especially common in laws, in covenant summaries, and teaching passages. One of the well-known ones, of course, Deuteronomy 10, verse 12. And this verse answers really one big question: is what does the Lord ask from His people, from you and I? And right, so the verse 12 speaks about, it has a list of infinite constructs, and starts with that the Lord requires from you, and requests from you to fear the Lord, to walk in His ways, to love Him, to serve Him. And I think verse 13 continues that, but in verse 12 is to fear, to walk, to love, and to serve. And each of these is associated with the inseparable preposition lamed, And so you have the infinite construct, which gives you an action, and in that action, the passage is not telling a story, it's not telling of an event, it's not describing what anyone is doing, it's not tied to any one moment of time. It's ultimately defining what God expects and giving a list of what he expects to walk, to serve, to love, to fear. And so it helps us to recognize his expectations. The infinite construct helps us, it says this is what life is with God. It involves for us to, it's not something we're already doing, it's not something that he's not something that we're already doing or something that we haven't done, but it's saying that what he expects and it's part of our life and part of who we are. It helps us to ask, do I understand what God is asking from me? So the infinite construct lets the Hebrew describe actions God requires without turning them into a story, without turning them into command. He says, this is what I expect from you. I expect you to fear, to love, to serve, to walk and in his commandments. And so we find it very useful and for us to understand expectations from our God. So as we look in chapter 20 here, I want to pull out some of the nuances that are here. And so let's sort of dive in. I want to pull in share the slide here. Let me do that. Oh, not that one. Huh. Okay, I don't see my slide here. Probably because I started it afterwards. So let me do it this way. So see. All right, let me stop something and restart it. Just like there we go. Restart this. Let's see if it shows up now. No, I don't see it. Come on, come on. Well, I had it earlier and I did something different, and I think basically it disconnected. So let me try reconnecting it and get it back.
Good morning.
Morning, David. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. A little
Good.
bit
Good morning.
trouble with the link.
Hey, David. Hey, brother, which verse did you mention right now in Deuteronomy?
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 12, I think I said. I believe that's what I had.
Brother Dave,
Yeah.
is it possible to have the links for the sessions on the LMS under any tab on the course, or is difficult?
Yeah, I could put something there. The thing is, though, is that so it's each one of you gets a registration link. And because I need you to register for the class, so you had to register to get in. And I think you had to put your name, email, and your GST ID. That enables me to begin recording and track attendance. That's one of the major issues that I'm having to deal with. But so I need to look at that to see what. Let me get this to work. It's not working. To see what is required to make that happen. I understand what you're saying, but I got to look at it.
Is a different link for the one that you mentioned, Academy Opportunities? Because when
Would say that again. I don't understand what you meant.
there was an email that says Academy Opportunities, and under every instructor there is a link that says register. It's different.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about because I don't remember academy opportunities. I don't remember that.
Okay.
But we can look at it. Let me see if I can get this back now. Well, oh, there it is. Okay. Share. Okay, that's better. All right, everybody here? Let's see. Here we go. Size just right so I can see everything at the same time. Yeah, that works. All right, so let me see if I can do this. That way. This over here and get organized. All right, everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yes, sir.
we want to talk about the Cal infinite construct for both strong and weak verbs. And you'll find the strong is extremely easy. It's just not difficult. The weak is not hard, except there's so much variation because, as we've looked at before, you have the first noon, the first yod, the first gutturals, second gutturals, the third hey, the third olive, the third het ayin, all these different weak consonants impact the how the verb is formed. It doesn't impact how it functions, just how it's formed and what it looks like. And so I'm not a fan of trying to memorize all that, but you certainly need to kind of know it and understand it to try to see what's happening um, uh, and what changes occur because of those weak consonants. So we want to look at that. We're going to look at the form of the infinite construct with inseparable prepositions and pronomial suffixes. So we have pronomial suffixes in for nouns and for the direct object marker and with and prepositions. With nouns, the pronomial suffix works as possessive. With the direct object marker and with preposition, it works as the object. So the object of the preposition, right? Uh, uh, he went into the house. The house would be the object of the preposition into. Or the direct object marker, that et, would, with the pronominal suffix, would then function as the object, maybe whatever that object is, him or his, would be him, hit, that type of thing. And then we'll talk about how a infinite construct is negated, like uh, don't go into the house. Don't do this. Well, it's a little different for an infinite construct. It's just another vocabulary word. And then we talk about the 5 uses of the infinite construct in basic biblical Hebrew. Um, so it's not always just to this or to walk, to serve. There's more nuance. And so you get beyond just the basic grammar and into more of a syntax understanding of how it's used. And that's why is somebody calling me? I don't know who you are, and you're interfering with my call. Let's see what that did. Okay, we're back. So that's what we want to do today. We should not have any problems getting through with this. So in the infinite construct is a verbal noun. It has features that are common in both verbs and nouns. So basically, if you take a noun and you take a verb and you smash it together, you get a infinite construct, a verbal noun. So it has features that are similar to that. It retains some features of a verb and retains some features of a noun. And so it makes it a unique. The same thing with a participle. We're going to do participles later. Participles attain some features of the verb, but also features of the adjective. But an infinite construct is going to retain features of both the verb and the noun. And that makes it a little unique. The construct, infinite construct can function like English infinite, like to translate, and often we'll say to plus whatever the verb is, to study, to learn, to walk, to go, to hide, whatever. And so that's typical, especially in English. There's a little more to it in the Hebrew, but it's basically the same thing. Infinite construct is not inflected for person, gender, or number. That's why it's called infinite, right? If you make a verb finite, it will have a person, number, or gender. It's finite. It's limited to that person, that number, and that gender. It's a third masculine singular, second feminine plural. It's a finite verb. But when you take that person, number, and gender away, it's an infinite. There's no limitation to a person, gender, or number. And so basically, there's only one form to memorize. So you don't have to learn a paradigm of third masculine singular, third masculine plural on down the line. You don't have to learn that because there's really only one form. But you have to do what happens to that form when it's associated with some of the weak consonants. So that's all we're going to do here. So here's the form. It's very simple. It looks exactly like the imperative second masculine singular. Exactly like it. Okay, why does it not change? Huh. All right, why is you guys are not seeing my slide change, are you? No, you're not. That's not good.
It's not changing.
Not changing at all. Well, why? Did you break it? It's probably Patrick's fault. I'm blaming Patrick. I am. All right, well, that's not good. So let me do it this way. Let's see if I can stop share and go share again and see what happens. Well, it's not sharing the right page. So, all right. We'll stop share again. Let me go there and basically close that out. And now go start it up again. Okay. Get up here to share. There it is. There it is. All right, we're kind of back again. Let's see how long this lasts. See what happens. So, okay, so here's the form. It looks just like the imperative second masculine singular. Remember in the imperative is sort of like built. I'll say built from is probably not the right word, but ultimately is you can learn it from. So you learn your imperfect form with whatever the prefixes and suffixes might be. If you take those away, that's your imperative form. Well, that's also the same form for the infinite construct. And the good news is that and when you go back to the imperative, you have a second masculine singular, you have a second masculine plural, a second feminine singular, and a second feminine plural. So the imperative does have person, number, and gender. It's just limited to second person, and limited, of course, to masculine singular, masculine feminine, and singular and plural. But for the infinite construct, that looks a little different. I had to update my iPad this morning, and I was wondering what kind of changes I was going to get because I updated, but oh well. So ultimately, it's identical to the second cow imperative, second masculine singular. And the imperative occurs primarily in speech at the beginning of a clause. That's important. How do you tell the difference? Number one, the imperative is almost always going to be at the beginning of the clause. You have an imperative to give a command. So at the beginning of the clause might be, and God said, you shall not kill. Well, the imperative will be, at the beginning of that discourse, that quote. However, the infinite construct can appear anywhere. And it will almost always, 91% of the time, have a inseparable preposition. Most of the time, I think well over 60% of the time it would be the lamed. The other two would be, of course, the bait and cough. But most times that. So that will help distinguish between the imperative second masculine singular and the infinite construct form. It is very consistent across all the strong verbs and even most of the weak verbs. It's very consistent. So it's not a lot of changes, but there are some, and that's kind of what we want to look at. That make sense? Any questions, guys?
Oh.
Yeah. No, that was a no? I thought that was somebody saying something. All right. Just cleaning up. Go to the next slide. So when we look at the imperative as compared to the infant construct, notice that when we're here with the strong, this is of course the second masculine. This would be the second masculine singular of the imperative. Actually, that's all they got is second masculine singular. Let me do it here. And notice it's the same. They look exactly the same in the strong form. So here's another one in the strong form. They look exactly the same. So to write, this is you write, right? Second masculine singular, you write. This is to write in the infinite construct form. To remember, or this is you remember in the second masculine singular, and this would be to remember. And in the strong, is to keep, or to keep. So you keep in an imperative versus to keep in the infinite construct form. The only way you really know the difference is in the context. We mentioned the imperative will almost always be at the beginning of called a discourse, like a clause that has a quote, generally speaking. And the infinite construct can be anywhere in the sentence, and almost you'll find most of the time a inseparable preposition attached to an infinite construct. There will never, ever, ever be a infinite or inseparable preposition attached to a imperative. So if you see this, well, this one, this, in the middle of a sentence, and but at the beginning of a clause, a quote to do something, a command of some sort, or there's it's a good chance is an imperative. If there's a preposition attached to it, it cannot be an imperative. It has to be the infinite construct. That help? All right, bring out a couple of differences here. A couple more things that might stand out a bit. For the imperative, there are, you notice the forms stay the same. This is, of course, a guttural, and because it's a guttural, it doesn't take a shava, vocal shava, so it uses the hatef shava. Is that right? Hatef shava? I always get that mixed up. Come on, you guys, you know all the answers. Tell me, what is it?
Sigul Shava.
No, Sago. Yeah, just Sago's, you're right. That's what you put it. I'm talking about it's a, what's the category called?
Is it Hatef Segol?
Well, okay. We're all on the same track, but
Shava, Sigul, Sigul Shava.
No, it doesn't have Sheva. It's a reduce Segol. Reduce Segol.
Yeah, I mean I'm not arguing that point, but I'm thinking of something different. Is it Hatef Padak or Hatef Segol or Hatef Kametz? Yeah. All right. And I always get that mixed up. Where I struggle with it is because we're also going to look at what's called, you remember the Kametz Hatuf? I always get that mixed up, Hatuf versus Hatef. So the Hatef Padak, the Hatef Kametz, the Hatef Segol, I think somebody might have said that. That's because, of course, this is a guttural. But we still have it's called the stem vowel, right? Stem vowel. And the second, this is position 1, position 2, position 3. We have the holum, the holum, the holum, the holum, pretty consistent. But on some of the, you remember this on the imperative, this came from the imperative as well as the imperfect. On some of the second guttural positions, or third het or third ion, normally it's third het and third ion like that, and third olive, these, they like the A class vowel. All right, A class could be the product or the comates, right? This is a long A class. This is the short A class. And so they like that. And so what happens in the imperative is that instead of having the holum, it will have the A class vowel. And in this case, it likes the product. No, stop that for me. Come on. It likes the product. But here it likes the comates because that quiescent olive. It just basically lengthens that product to a comate. So you've kind of seen that before, but that's what's happening in the imperative. But what happens in the infinite construct is it remains constantly every single time the holum. Now, what does occur is we do have here. You remember what this is called? Anybody remember what that's called? Figurative. I probably spelled that wrong. Basically, a figurative. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong because I spelled it wrong. A figurative vowel. I don't remember where that's at, but it goes underneath the last. I'm trying to clean it up so it's readable. It goes underneath the last. Consonant. It's not used for syllabification. It's not used for divide a syllable, but it is used in pronunciation. And it's really there, from my understanding, it's really there to kind of help with the pronunciation. You got these certain certain consonants that really needed a little help in its pronunciation, in its sounding out. And so here's Shaloach. Shaloach. See, it's hard to say Shaloach. Shaloach. So they put this figurative vowel there. Shaloach. Same thing with here. There is no sound for the ayin, so they put this figurative vowel there, and it's shamoah. And that's really what it does. It helps in this pronunciation. That's my understanding of it. So anyway, that makes sense. You guys okay? Here's the thing to remember. Very consistent. Okay?
Hello, Dave.
Yeah.
With the infinite construct and the inseparable preposition, does it mean when you see them, there will be an additional letter to these three root words?
I'm sorry, Patrick. Was that you, Patrick?
Yes, please.
Okay, I didn't quite catch your question.
I mean, with the infinite construct,
right?
You mentioned an inseparable preposition.
Travel to position.
It's 91%. That's what it was mentioned. 91% is the object of a preposition.
Oh, okay, preposition. I see.
So if we see them, should we be looking out for three letters or an additional letter to the three roots that we are seeing now?
Okay, so 91% of the time, it's going to have a inseparable preposition. We're going to go over that. So it'll have mostly the lamet, but possibly the bait or the cough attached to it. Normally as a shavah. So that's 91% of the time, but it can be standalone like that.
Okay.
It can also have, and that's what we're getting to next, it can also have pronominal suffixes added to it. So we'll get a chance to review our pronominal suffixes again, and we'll talk about how that works on an infinite construct. So the thing I want to point out is that 3 letters is the 3 root letters in the infinite construct is just stating that this, whatever it means, in this case, it's to say to remember or to write. It's just stating an action. It's not giving any information about the action. Now, what happens is we add preposition or we add a pronominal suffix to it, and that gives us information about the action. So standalone, it just tells us an action: to remember, to eat, to walk. I mean, that's all it tells us. But we need to understand in its context what it wants us to do, to walk where, or to who's eating. And that's basically, we're going to add the prepositions and the pronominal suffixes to give us more information. Does that help, Patrick?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, let me clean up because I'm normally very organized, but when I do this stuff, it just seems like a mess and I can't stand it. Drives me crazy. All right. So now you've learned that normally this is the norm. Okay. You'll see basically the first position with the shavah, and second position with the holem, and the third position, whatever the third position is. So that is the norm, and ultimately, here we go. But when you come up against certain weak consonants, there's impacts to the norm. We already know that. We've seen it all the time. Our lexical form here is for bana, and bana is, I think, to build. In the infinite construct, it drops the hey, and it adds the holem vav tav. Now, you've seen the holem vav tav added before. It's done for feminine nouns, plural feminine nouns. Of course, this is not a noun. Remember, this is a verb, has verb characteristics and noun characteristics, and that's probably my guess. I don't really know. My guess is why we're seeing this holem vav tav. It's picking up a noun characteristic, although it's not saying that it's feminine. It's not saying that it's plural, because a construct, infinite construct, has no gender, has no number, has no person. It's just basically in the infinite construct form, it's going to drop that third hey and replace it with the holem vav tav. And notice it's very consistent. We say that all the time. So here's the challenge, understanding that and recognizing that when you see that holem vav tav, that it was previously a third hey. And so that was a hey there. Do you really need to know that? Well, only if you want to look up the meaning. Like, well, what does that mean? Well, to see. Well, I don't know that if I don't recognize that that's basically replaces that third hey, because, the third hey, they just drop a lot. So you should be comfortable knowing, okay, third hey drops, something's changed here. What could it be? And you have to play the detective and say, okay, what might have changed? Well, not unusual for a third hey to drop. And that would be one of the things that you want to look at. Make sense? All right. That's my wife calling me. She knows I'm teaching. She knows I'm teaching, so let me make sure that there's nothing wrong. Yeah, baby, okay? Yeah, I'm teaching. You okay? Mama, who's there? Cephas. Oh, Cephas. Hey, bro, how you doing? Yeah. Are you registered to take? You're talking about one with the class with Phil Sanders, or are you talking about the class with Eddie on with the Georgia School Theology and Proverbs, Ecclesiastes? Okay. I didn't see that. Well, Eddie will have his class. It is online, And I didn't see it, so that's why you don't have a link to it, because without me seeing that, I haven't seen a registration for it. And I would send you the link. I have, this is Cephas Chapman, right? Okay, well, Cephas, I could send you the link, but I'm in the middle of a class. When I'm done, let me email you that link. And he does that online. He won't be there for the class. Is that be all right? All right, I'll email you the link and then we'll talk more about it later, okay? Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, bye. Okay, sorry about that. My wife wouldn't be, she knows I'm teaching so she wouldn't be calling me, but apparently somebody thinks they're taking a class. But I didn't see a registration form, so they're not registered. So he was looking for it. Okay, so back to where we were. If you remember, third hey drops a lot. This is not new, okay? On the imperfect verb, that third hey drops and it becomes a segol hey, all right? On the imperative verb, that third hey drops and it becomes a serei hey. And the infinite construct, that third hey drops and it becomes a holem vav, tav. So this is kind of gives you a big picture of what happens in most cases with the third hey dropping. And for the imperfect, it's going to change to a segol hey. For the imperative, it's going to change to a serei hey, and for the infinite construct, to a holem vav tav. So kind of gives you that big picture overview. Hopefully that helps. So, any thoughts, guys? All right. So the other change that we see is we see, of course, third hey. We'll see first gutturals, and we already saw that the first gutturals, let me go back to this. The first gutturals really had no impact. The only impact is that you don't use a shavah, you use a hatef shavah. Yeah, hatef shavah would be either the hatef parak, the hatef segol, or the hatef kamates. That's the only thing. Same thing with the first olive. There's no impact. Okay. Now, and pretty much the same thing with the second guttural. The only impact is that you don't have the holem. Instead, you have the potic down there. The same thing with the third het. You don't have the holem. You have the potic down there. Well, I'm sorry. I'm pointing to the wrong ones, guys. I apologize. Y'all should correct me. Say, hey, what are you doing? That's what I was trying to point out. So the first gutturals, you have there's the potic hatef or the hatef shavah, and the first olive would be also a segol hatef or hatef shavah, but everything else remains consistent. It does have a furtive vowel there, but it remains consistent. So our third olive, our third ayin, our third het, our second guttural, first olive, first guttural, really very little impact and very little change. You shouldn't have a problem. You will have an impact, and that's what this is pointing out on third hey and first noon and first yod, which we'll do next. You will have an impact there. Pretty big impact, actually. So here is not a major impact. That changes. Of course, the same as it did with the imperative, the same it does with the imperfect. Those change, but not too hard to remember. It's at the end. And you know, oftentimes you have this hey at the end, a third hey, and that always drops off a lot. And so, oh, okay, well, that's probably, there's an imperfect, there's an imperative, there's an infinite construct. That's what you want to know. But now, first noon and first yod, those are bigger impacts and much more difficult to recognize. There are two patterns for the first noon. First noon, right? First position, second position, third position. This is our normal pattern right here for 3MS perfect. Nasa, and that's our normal pattern. And for the infinite, basically, you can have the same pattern we saw, right? There's our first noon with the shavah, with the holem in the second position, and it adds the furtive vowel, the potic there. And that's really just for pronunciation. I say that. That's what I understand it. And so this would be, and here it is nasa, and here it is nasoa. Nasoa. And okay, not so hard to recognize. You're seeing the same pattern as all the others with the holem and the holem and the holem and the holem. So whether it has a furtive patic or not really doesn't matter. And so this is actually, there's the holem. This is actually the sin versus the shin. And there's our holum. So that pretty easy, really. Nothing much changed. But now you can have under the first noon a strong pattern and what's called a weak pattern, where that first noon drops. But it adds a third consonant. So this is actually the second position, the third position, and this is the add-on. The first position dropped. The noon is gone. That makes it a little more difficult, clearly. So you can have either or. It could be either one or the other. Now, I don't really know how often one occurs versus the other. I wish this had a better eraser format. I'm not really pleased with this. I'd like to find something better. But anyway, so in the weaker pattern, that first noon has dropped off. But what you do recognize is a couple of things. Number one, it's almost always adding a third position with a tav. Number two, it's almost always, can't say every time, but most always, it becomes remember your seglet nouns? A seglet noun, whether you have seglets, twin seglets, or you have any other vowel, doesn't matter for much. What matters is that first syllable has the accent to it. That's a seglet noun. So this is a seglet noun, and so that's a clue that something was there. And maybe it is a clue, but you may not recognize it, right? So you have a seglet noun ending with this tav. That's your clue that, okay, wait, maybe something's different here. So when you try to look up this word, you'll never find it in the lexicon. The good news, we all have computers and we hover over it, tells us what it is. But you need to understand what's happening. So the noon is dropped. It becomes a seglet noun, most cases. And the vowels may or may not stay the same. They may change. There's a potics here, potics here, potics here. But notice not so much here. Not so much here. Here. So there's a little more difficult when the first noon drops. Here's a little bit kind of unique. Just kind of what happens here, what I think happens here if I go in memory, is you have a noon and a noon. And basically this first noon is going to drop. And you're going to add the tav here. And this noon wants to assimilate here and become that, put a doggish forte there. And so it would be this with this with this. But, oh no, I did that wrong, excuse me. It'd be this with the holum, because that's the second position, because the noon drop, and it would be this with that. But you cannot put the doggish. The doggish is the noon dropping. That's what that is. But you can't put a doggish in the last position. So that's why it looks like this, and that's why you get the seré there. That's kind of what's happening, if I remember right. It's just that because those noons are weak, they assimilate or drop often. So that's all that's happening there. Okay. All right. So, okay. There we go. Any questions so far? All right. First noon, two options, strong pattern, makes life easy, shouldn't be hard to recognize. Weak pattern, definitely much more difficult to recognize. It's going to drop the noon. It's going to add the tav at the end. And it typically, not always, will make it look like a seglet noun with the caret in the first syllable. This is really the second position. That's the third position because the first position dropped off. So anyway, that's kind of that's happening there. Time is, yeah, we're plenty of time. Not much longer. So the exact same thing happens with the first yod. So the first yod is really the same as the first noon, where that first yod drops off, that first consonant drops off, and you put the tav at the end, and then you set it up like a seglet. Same thing. But there is no, where in the first noon you had a strong pattern, there is not in the first yod. It's just the weak infinite construct pattern. All these at first yod dropped off. And it dropped off in every single case. So there, 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 and there. And then they add the tav on the third position. And yeah, that's really all there is to that. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, well, here's the fun thing. The infinite construct has both a noun and a verb function. But it does not take all the characteristics of a verb or noun. It is unique in that it does not have the finite characteristics of person, number, or gender. And generally, it makes it pretty recognizable. And generally, it's going to be associated with a preposition, and it may or may not have a pronominal suffix, and that's where we're going next. Well, we got to do biconsonantals. But the only place you're really going to struggle the most is when the first noon and the first yod, when the first noon drops or the first yod drops. So that's will be the biggest struggle. Most other places are not going to be a problem. Biconsonantal verbs. You remember a biconsonantal is just two, one, position two. There is no position three. And the lexical form for this is the lexical form that you look it up, is the infinite construct. They are the one and the same. So you have nothing new to learn here. We've already looked at biconsonantal, and we've already said, hey, the lexical form is the to be, the infinite construct form, to remember, to love, to hate, to die, those kind of things. So there's really nothing new here at all to learn, and just the lexical form for the infinite construct is the infinite construct. Whereas in other places, it's the third masculine singular perfect conjugation. Okay, but not for biconsonantal. Now we get to pronominal suffixes, and we didn't spend a lot of time in chapter 19. Maybe we should have spent more. You've done pronominal suffixes with nouns and with direct object and with the prepositions. When you add and because remember, this is a verbal noun, right? So it has noun characteristics and it has verb characteristics. It's unique in of itself. And so it will do some things that a noun will do, and it will do some things that a verb will do. And so it can take pronominal suffixes like a verb, and it can take pronominal suffixes like a noun. So it can do both. And so when you add a pronominal suffix to an infinite construct, the thing to remember is that the suffix has a person, number, and gender, but the infinite construct does not. And just like with the noun, it can function as with the noun, a pronominal suffix functions as possessive, right? With a noun. With a infinite construct, it's going to function either as a subject or the object, either one. So this ka. Oh, actually, that's another good thing. Let's do that first, okay? Let's do that first. This is important. I was going to miss this. All right. This is first position, second position, and third position. Here's my question to you. What vowel is that?
Kamets.
Again?
Kamets?
No, it's not a come-H. It looks like a come-H. But there's one other vowel that looks like a come-H, but it's not a come-H. You remember it? It's the one I get mixed up with the Hatef vowels, or Hatef Segols, Hatef Shavas.
So it's Kamet Hatuf?
Hatuf, with the U, right? Hatuf. I always mix that up. That is the O sound. And you know that because, and that's why I drew this line, there's our syllable. So this is the O with a closed syllable, unaccented. There's no accent there. The accent's over here. So there's a closed syllable, unaccented. That makes that a kametz hatuf. And so it's not sounding, let me erase it so we can read it.
Oh.
Okay, so it's not sounding katalu or katalo. Instead, that's kotlo. One sound, kotlo, not katlo or katalo.
So the tab is a silent shabab there?
Well, it had to be a silent shabab because it's closing the syllable. That's right. Yes, sir. If this was a kametz,
the kametz hatuf is a short vowel.
that's a good question. I don't remember. I know we go back to chapter 3, and yes, it is a kametz hatuf is a short vowel. The holum is a long vowel because when it's a short vowel, that's the difference here. And you bring up a great point. A silent shabab will be preceded by a short vowel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what David was trying to bring up, I think. And so a kametz hatuf is a short vowel. You can see that on page 9, where you have the holum, a long vowel. Kametz hatuf is a short vowel, and someone mentioned earlier the hatef kametz is a reduced vowel. That help? So all these are pronounced with the short O, which to me, the short and long O don't sound any different. I don't know. I can't differentiate really. It's probably just me because I'm just not astute enough, smart enough. All right, but here's what's happening. So this is a kametz hatuf, so that's kot lo, kot la, kot laka, that's the final cough. Kot leka, kot lake. Yeah, that's right. Kot lak. This would be laka. That's a vocal shavah. This is a silent shavah. That's a vocal shavah. So kot laka, kot lake, kot li, kot lam, kot lan. That's the final noon. Kot la kim, kot la ke, akin, and kot le nu. And so we're just trying to bring out this as they kametz hatuf with the short O sound. Okay. Now what happens is this these endings here, the pronominal suffixes. You should know they're the same. You haven't learned anything new. They're the same for nouns, the same for direct object, the same for prepositions, the same for verbs. Now we're applying it to an infinite construct, but the pattern is the same. So you should be getting really comfortable and familiar with the pattern. So whether it be a 3MS with the holum vav or the 3FS with the kametz hey, or the final cough with the 2MS and on down the line. You should get pretty familiar with a lot of that. The problem is going to be is whether it's functioning as the subject or the object. So here is there's our 3MS perfect form, katal. And in the there's the form in without the pronominal suffix for a infinite construct form. And you see you have your closed syllable there. And now you add the pronominal suffixes, whether that be the holum or the hey or whatever that might be. Well, that pronominal suffix is telling you that the subject is either he, she, you, or the object is either him, her, you, or that's all it's doing. But notice it's still to kill. or killed. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. She killed, he killed, that kind of thing, or to kill him or to kill her. That makes sense, or I really messed that up? Did I confuse everybody?
Oh, good.
All right. Oh, good. Good.
Okay.
All right. Well, sometimes I feel like I'm overdoing it, and sometimes I feel like I'm not explaining it right. So I don't know. What happens is when I feel like I'm not explaining it right, I end up overdoing it and just mess it up. All right. So you've had pronominal suffixes. You should be reasonably familiar with infinite constructs. And now you're just adding them to them, and it's either going to function as a subject or the object. That's all it's doing. Okay, come on, there we go. Now, what happens when it's with an inseparable preposition, or when it's with the inseparable preposition and the pronominal suffix? So what we see here is the katal, and you could see that this is obviously either going to be the imperative or the call infinite construct. And you know for a fact that it has to be the call infinite construct because they have the inseparable preposition to it. It cannot be imperative. And so that makes it a lot easier. And so this is going to be leak toll. And it's going to 91% of the time, it's going to have the preposition there. And when it does, then the word, this is katal, to kill, becomes the object of the preposition. So with the preposition being here being the lamet. Let's say 91% of the time, and with inseparable preposition, 84% of the time. Okay. So here's what's happening. Here's our preposition, and here's the pronominal suffix. This is the same call infinite construct that we've already seen. And when we put the pronominal suffix, we get this closed syllable. This is the open vocal shava. This is a closed shava, silent shava, closed syllable. And so there's our short O. And so then we add the pronominal suffix and we get ka shom o, kashomo. The word for shema is here. And when you put it in the construct form, it's to here. And now we get he hears. Where's the wind come from? That's where we're going. When you add these prepositions to, toward, for, do you ever notice that to and toward has direction? What does for have? You ever notice that? I mean, that's a correct translation. They give it to you all the time, to, toward, or for. Well, for almost always is a purpose statement, U-R-P-O-S-E, for the purpose of, in order to, that kind of thing. And that's really what's happening, is that in the lamet, they emphasize the purpose. When you get to the others, the cough or the bait, they're going to emphasize what's called the temporal, basically when or while. So when he hears, and so he is this, hears is that, when he hears is the when is that. It's temporal. And so now you move beyond just basic grammar. Now you're moving into syntax and understanding of translation. So to me, it's pretty cool, but it does sort of take, okay, let me think about this for a minute, because normally this cough is like as, like, maybe even, and you go, well, where do you get when? Well, because when you use it in the infinite construct, and that's where we're going next, you're basically going to have 5 different functions, 5 different uses, and one of them is going to be temporal, and the cough and the bait will be temporal. And then you got 4 different lamed uses, and we're going to talk about that next. All right, did I confuse everybody? Because I was working hard to do that.
Well, we
here's a
are
simple.
well confused.
Yeah, good. I'm doing my job then. All right. Okay, so stop it. In some programs, you can have, click something and clears the whole screen. This particular program doesn't allow me to do that, and I'm struggling to find the right program to help me write on here. All right, so yeah, when you negate something, negate means to say no or not when you make it negative, right? Here's our kill. That would be to kill, right? To kill. There's our. It's either going to be an imperative, or it's going to be a infinite construct form. And if it, well, let me just say this. So if it's going to be an infinite construct and it negates it, it has to say no, no, or not. It's going to use one of these two negations, and that's it. That will all. So it would be bil t, or la bil t. And that will be it. It will use only those for an infinite construct. So if it's negating it and it uses bil t or la bil t, then it has to be an infinite construct. It won't be an imperative. The other negations are what? Oh, I know it and I just forgot it. I went blank. Is it? I can't remember. Anyway, I have to look it up. So here's the key. When an infinite construct has to say no, not to kill, or in order not to kill, it will use bil t or la bil t. So those are vocabulary words you need to know, and you'll see them, especially in like the commandments, do not kill. And you'll say bil t or la bil t. When you parse an infinite construct, the parsing is different because remember, there is no person, no number, or no gender. It's woke, no gender. So this is a woke, no, kidding. There's no person, number, or gender. So you can't make this a 3ms or a 2fs. Those don't exist. So when you parse it, you give the word. Here's by note, right? And oh, that will look familiar. I bet you I wonder if that's a third hey gone. So that's just a clue you might get. Here's our preposition. Here's our pronominal suffix. 1, 2, 3. And so you would give the word that's being used, cal, infinite construct. You give its lexical form. And you should give also its definition or how it's being used, definition, in this form. But there is no person, number, or gender. In this case, you're going to say kasho'o, and it's a kasho'o, cal, infinite construct. It's from shama, and with the kaf preposition and 3ms suffix, pronominal suffix. That's how you'd give the parsing. If you don't give all that, then you've missed something. Then it's not the correct parsing. Okay. What I want to remind you though is don't put 3ms or 2fs. Okay, that would make it wrong because it doesn't exist. And inevitably, what happens is that we're so comfortable with cal perfect 3ms, cal imperfect 3ms, 2ms. We just out of habit want to write it. Well, it doesn't exist here, so don't write it. All right, now there's 5 different purposes or usage functions for the infinite construct, and when it has specifically when it has the preposition, inseparable preposition. So when we add the inseparable preposition to it, and we add the lamet, there's 4 different uses we can do. We could give it purpose, intention, result, and so here, Yahweh has not given you a heart in order to know, right? To know, or eyes in order to see, or in order to hear. So you could just say, and it has not given you a heart to know, or eyes to see, or ears to hear until this day. But that to hear, to see, to know, or to know, to hear, to see, to hear, those are talking about the purpose. He didn't give you eyes, heart to know, or ears to hear, or eyes to see until this day. In other words, he didn't give it to you for that purpose. There's a purpose here. There's an intent. There's a result. And so oftentimes, and this will be the most use for the Lamed, the most use for the Lamed will be a purpose statement or a result statement or intent statement. The intent here was he gave you the heart to know, the eyes to see, and the ears to hear for a purpose. And that's kind of what it's trying to bring out. And that's what that Lamed does. That makes sense? I want to point out the infinite construct is still to know, to hear, or to see, whatever the order is. I got the order wrong. That didn't change, but when you add that Lamed to it, it changes its purpose to be, or its function to give more of a purpose statement. And that's why it can still translate it to know, to hear, or to see, but it's really telling you the purpose or the intent. Make sense, guys? You see what's happening? Can you see that? Or did I?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going beyond just Lamed means to, toward, or for. Now it's giving a lot more function to the infinite construct by adding this Lamed. Now, but that's not the only way it's used. That's one use. It can be used what's called inceptive. Inceptive would be tell you that something's about to happen. We're getting to it's almost ready to happen. It's the beginning. So sometimes when you prefix the infinite construct with a Lamed, it may not be purpose or result. It may be saying it's about to happen. So the sun was about to set. There's the Lamed, and about to set. And so the Lamed is not saying, it's not giving purpose or result or intention. It wasn't the intent for the sun to set. It's basically talking about its inceptive form. It's about to happen. And that's all you do is you add about to. Sun was about to set. That's not as common as the purpose, but it does exist. The Lamed can also be functioning, make that infinite construct carry more of a noun function, give a stronger noun emphasis. Remember, an infinite construct is a verbal noun. It can function as a verbal noun and as a subject or the object of a verbless clause. So there's no verb in this clause, none. And it can basically give that sort of that noun to take refuge. So it's better to take refuge and then Yahweh, in Yahweh, this is in, there's Yahweh, right? Then is better, good or better, this is comparative form, to take refuge in Yahweh than is then trusting in man. There's our in, there's man, Adam. So it can make it the verbal noun function as a subject or the object. So here is really the object, and here's the subject. I think either one. To take refuge, and the object is better than trusting in man. A fourth use for the same Lamed would be called complementary. This does happen quite a bit. You see it a lot in Greek too. Complementary just means, tell me more about this. Give me more information about something. Tell me kind of like, okay, how's this action clarify this action. Give me something, information. One of my favorite passages is 1 Peter 3. This is not Hebrew, it's in Greek. 1 Peter 3, 21, with regard to, I went blank.
Baptism now saves you.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to get the start of it. Going back to verse 20. Corresponding to that, corresponding to them, corresponding to those 8 people that were saved in verse 20. Corresponding to that, baptism now saves you. And then it has this clarifying statement that really is put in parentheses, right? It's parenthetical. It's not the removal of filth, the dirt from the flesh, but an appeal to God for a appeal for clean conscience. And then you close the parenthetical statement and you say it adds through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So it's corresponding to those guys that were saved in the ark. Baptism now saves you. Put the parenthetical statement aside. Baptism now saves you through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The parenthetical statement tells you something about the baptism. It gives you clarifying information about the baptism, that it's not the removal of dirt from the flesh. It's not like you went into the washing machine, but it's an appeal to God for a clean conscience, for a clear conscience. And so that's what a complementary use does. It gives you clarifying information about something that is being spoken of, okay? So, and same thing with the infinite construct. It can be used to explain, to clarify, or to complement a preceding action or statement, right? All the people of Israel shall observe the Sabbath. Well, how am I doing? Well, by doing. This is by doing. This is from Asa. If you remember, Asa is, let's see if I could do this. Asa. There's it's the verb asa. Well, there's our third hey, drops off, and we get our whole involved tav. We add the preposition to it, and it's not really to do, but it's by doing, because it's clarifying how we observe the Sabbath. Well, we observe it by doing the Sabbath through the generations as everlasting covenant. That's what a complementary function will do, to explain, to clarify, to complement some action that's being talked about, preceding it. That makes sense? So those are the lammets. There's 4 different ways to use the lammet. The most, I want to say popular, the most used is going to be, what time is it? Okay, I got a couple more minutes. It's going to be the purpose statement, or the result statement, or the intention. These others do get used. I think complementary might be the next one. So number 1 is going to be the lammet for a purpose statement. But the other way, that number 2 that occurs the most often is called the temporal. Temporal means time, right? It's just time. So typically, when we talk about time, we're talking about when or while. And if you see the preposition, the bait or the cough added to the Cal infinite construct, then it's going to function temporal. And that's pretty easy. And so here is, we'll get to this in a minute. This is the haya, right? Remember haya? Anybody remember what haya means?
To become, or
to be, right? To be, exactly right. To become or to be. All right. And so here's basically our not conjunction, but the consecutive, the Vok consecutive. I'm going to bring that up in a minute. And so this is the imperfect form of the to be, right? The haya, and which is going to make it function, because it's imperfect. It should be something that occurs, that's ongoing. So it would be something that's continuous. But when you put this Vok consecutive, not Vok conjunction, but Vok consecutive in front of it, then imperfect now gets translated like it was a perfect. Remember that? We did that. And so that's why it says, while Israel dwelt, looked at, past tense, in the land. It functions, it makes it sound like a perfect, even though it's an imperfect. Well, that occurs in a narrative statement, and that would be a narrative statement, a story. I hate to use the word story because that sounds like make-believe, but a narrative function. So what happens is that when you see this haya and before it, and you have a bait or a cough, the bait or cough is going to say when or while. But this haya is going to be one of your major markers that is going to be a beta or cough is going to be there. I mean, it's just almost always there. And so if you remember, I'm going to go over it again. All right. So here's, I want to go over it again. All right. So here's our word here. That's 1, 2, 3 for here. Shamar, to hear. And when we put the Vav consecutive, there's the ha-ya, put in the imperfect form with the Vav consecutive, then that now is function not imperfect, not ongoing, but past, like completed. And that's why it says, and when, there's our when right here, temporal, when or while, when he heard, and that would be that translation. And so the infinite construct is not inflected for person, number, or gender. The verbal subject, if there is any, must be taken from its context. That's the pronominal suffix right there. And so there we get our he, when he heard. And that's what that's saying. The other thing here is that the infinite construct is tenseless. In other words, there is no third person. There's no present, past, or future tense. That doesn't exist. To give it tense in its verbal form, we have to, so the temporal value of past, present, future doesn't exist. You have to get it from its context. And that's where this temporal modifier comes. When you get this modifier, it's going to tell you whether it's past, present, or future. All right. And so this haya is a present or a perfect form. And when we want it to be imperfect, we're going to make it with the change its form to be the like that. I forget what changes, but ultimately, then we want it to put it in narrative form. We'll add the consecutive of with the product, and that makes this now in a past tense kind of form. When we put that same exact thing, here's our word. That's what the when or while. Remember, the cough or the bait is going to be when or while. The he comes from here. So he, or if we had this, it'd be a she, or something of that, or the other ones were, or you. You would be a, let's see, cough. Yeah, I think like that. That would be the you, the 2ms, you. So that comes from the pronominal suffix. But here's our 1, 2, 3 for here. And if we add, there's our haya, but we put the Vav consecutive, it looks like a Vav conjunction, with the perfect form, that then changes it to sound like and translate like an imperfect, ongoing, or future. And when, there's our when, he, there's our he, hears, present tense. And when he will hear, our future tense. That comes from here. Okay? Y'all remember that? That makes sense? This is not new to you. It's just now it's functioning as a marker. Here's the thing. You don't have to translate, and you don't need to translate this stop it. This is not really translated. Now you can, because that's to be, right? Or to become. You could try to put it in there, and it would kind of work, but it'd be really, really wouldn't. So what often happens is it functions as a marker and not necessarily translated. And the marker is going to tell you whether or not it's going to be here's present, here, future, will hear, or heard. That's the imperfect form with the consecutive of, so it gets translated like it's a perfect in the past tense. There's our perfect form with a consecutive of, so it gets translated as if it's imperfect, present or future. So it really serves as a marker for this. You don't have to necessarily translate to be or to become. That's the thing that's going to be difficult because you're going to want to translate it. But if you recognize, well, I can, but it's going to be really wooden. But it's really serving as a marker, so I don't have to translate it. Does that help? Really threw you off, didn't I?
Is it like providing the context when there's no context, right?
I can't say when there's no context. No, I mean, basically, it's telling us that this infinite construct, we already know that there's a temporal form right there. Temporal. There's our either subject or object. It just depends on the context, right? It's either going to be the subject or the object of the verb. And this is a marker that strengthens the temporal form. It strengthens that. That's temporal. But it also gives you tense. Remember,
yeah, it tells us present or past.
Present, past, or future. And that goes
like
back to understanding, and I forget the chapter, understanding consecutive of. I think it was like chapter consecutive of, what chapter was that? 15? No, I think past 15. I don't remember. It was before verbs, and wasn't it? Wait. Yeah, I don't remember how to find it.
Was before imperative, so maybe 17.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Somebody will find it. And imperative. Yeah, chapter 17, about consecutive.
17.
We've done that already. It's just now this to be verb, this haya verb, really is very going to be associated with this kaf or the bait, because it's really intensifying this tense, or helping you know that this not just when it occurred, but when it occurred in the future, when it occurred. See, it's saying when, right? It's temporal now. Where under the lamet, it's not temporal. Time doesn't really matter. But with the coffin, when and while does matter. Well, it's telling you when. It's either going to be present or future because it's got the va consecutive with a perfect tense, or it's going to be past because it's got the va consecutive with an imperfect tense. That's what it's doing. It's strengthening, it's defining the tense when you have the bait or the cough on the infinite construct. That help? Okay. And that's it, guys. So, yeah. And that's really it. So that should kind of get you up, and maybe, we didn't spend a lot of time on pronomial suffixes chapter 19, but we've already had them. This kind of helps to strengthen that. So hopefully, I want to go back through, and I didn't double check that I've got all the homework correctly identified in the quizzes. I think I do. In the Hebrew 2 LMS, I was rushing to get that put together, so I'm not sure that's really quite right, but I'll look at it today, or try to look at it today and make sure I get it right. So, okay.
Okay.
All right. Any questions?
No, bro.
All right.
So, Dave, when are we expecting the quizzes?
The what?
The quiz.
Is there a quiz for this one?
Yes, the quiz is already out there.
Okay.
I put all the quizzes. Let me double check, make sure I got the right ones. But I put all the quizzes out there. What I still owe, and I'm behind, and I apologize, I'm just way overloaded, is on Hebrew 1. I still got to grade some things. One person, I won't mention his name, but still owes some Hebrew 1 stuff. And basically, I'm going to try to be merciful, but it's not going to be very pretty. So got to get caught up. Okay. Oh, these people are calling. All right, I got to go, guys.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You take care, brother.
You too. Thank you. Stop share, stop record.